Hey, what is going on everybody? It is Nolan, or the Optimistic Gamer here, and welcome back to the Optimistic Survival Series. If you recall, about a year ago, episode 76 of the Optimistic Survival Series, we embarked on a project involving pandas, camels, turtles, and many other mobs. If we fly right over here, I've actually been doing a lot of work since last episode in our world, just tidying up on some loose ends. Our animals, right here, if you recall, we had 2 camels and 2 pandas. The camels were tied up and the pandas were fenced in. We no longer have them here. Well, we have one lone panda right here, but our 2 camels are now tied up over in the town center, and I will get to the other panda in just a moment. But we started on a zoo project, and of course our turtles, well, I forget where the turtles are, or maybe we just gathered some turtle eggs. I think that's what it was. If we take a look in there, we have 2 turtle eggs. But we started a zoo because Minecraft offers a wide variety of mobs to seek out and find and potentially bring back. That is what we started, and that is what we are going to continue today. Real quick though, I said I would get to what happened to our other panda. So recently in the 1.21.6 update, with the addition of the Happy Ghast, we are also able to, and this is something that we haven't really touched on, we are able to tie leads to boats and attach them to a Happy Ghast, sort of like a hot air balloon, which means we can put mobs onto bamboo rafts and into other boats and tie them to ghasts and fly away with them, which is going to make this entire project a whole lot easier, considering the fact that certain mobs we cannot leash, such as pandas or polar bears. So I was testing out that mechanic between last episode and now, attaching our panda and bamboo raft to our Happy Ghast right up here, and both of them were happily flying around in the area. Well, the ghast got unsupervised at one point and unfortunately likely carried the panda into some blocks in which it could not escape, and that probably led to the demise of our poor panda friend. Fortunately for us, we can find a few more right over there in the jungle, but a very unfortunate incident, and of course the ghast continued to fly around, and it picked up our light blue sheep out of our wool farm. So I disconnected those leads, and the ghast is just happily flying around here as if he has done nothing wrong. I have my eye on you. I will keep my eye out for that panda, but I'm afraid he is no longer with us. But that is besides the point of today's video. Today is all about starting construction on the zoo. We are going to be building this over past the river district. I did a lot of flying around in a creative copy of this world, trying to figure out the best location for our zoo. There were a few candidates right behind our ghast dock right over there, over here near our suspension bridge over in that direction, but ultimately what I decided on was over here in the side of this mountain. What we are going to do is dig out a large chunk of this mountain, leaving a flat cliffside right here, which we will later go back and terraform and make it look really cool, like some kind of rock formation or something like that. But that is going to involve hauling away all of this dirt right here, so we have a nice flat open area where we can build our zoo. Once we do that, we are going to get the paths put into place for the zoo, and then we will kind of mark out where all of the different animal enclosures are going to be. We are also going to have an aviary, we are also going to have an aquarium, so it is going to be a full-blown zoo, and I'm very excited for it. Of course, this project has been about a year in the making. We are just now finally getting back to it. So for hollowing out all of this dirt and all of the stone here, a beacon would be in our best interest. And I think we will build this beacon base at the same level that we are going to be removing dirt to, which will be about right here, Y95. So we can build this real quick. There we go, our beacon is built, and we will get to work on removing all of this dirt. So the first thing that we need to decide on is where exactly we want the edge of the mountain to be, and I'm thinking we will go back right about to where this snowy part will end, maybe a little bit in front of it. We might even start right down here in that corner and just continue straight across. Again, we are removing this entire face of this mountain right here, and it's going to be a lot steeper. We will fix it and make it look a bit more natural after the fact, but we want to make sure that we have a nice flat open space for the zoo. And I think we will actually probably go from... I kind of like this little outcropping right here, so I think we will start maybe about here, and we are just going to draw a line in the ground using our stone shovel, and we will use our pickaxe as well. And it looks like we are a little bit out of range of that beacon, so we will need to adjust that later on, but I think we can start over there initially, and then we can move it as we need to. And yeah, we are definitely very far away from that. We're actually back farther than I thought we would be, but this is going to be great. This is going to give us a lot of space. We're going to want a lot of animal enclosures, because remember, we have polar bears and pandas, foxes, turtles, camels. We're going to try to get dolphins in here. I know we tried to get them in our lake and they despawned, but if we name them, they should stay put. So we are just going to continue this line all the way until we get to Y95. We also have armadillos, who were just recently added to the game. And it looks like we get to about 97 right here, so I think that is where we will turn back and go back in towards the rest of our line right here. And we will remove everything inside of this line, and there we go, we are back to Y95. We have all kinds of tropical fish, we have goats. I mean, there is no shortage of animals that we can have inside of our zoo. So let's head back to our beacon. I have done a lot of consolidating and reorganizing in our storage facility, so we have a lot of empty shulker boxes now, which is great because we are going to need them, and I'm just verifying that we are on the correct level there. We are also going to place out our bed and grab all of these shulker boxes from here. There we go. We can even start to fill some of them up with the materials that we already have, and then we need some more firework rockets as well, because I want to fly up and get a sense of how this is going to look. So we're just going to fly straight up in between our two beacon columns, and that is pretty good. That, again, is going to extend all the way over. I guess we need to finish drawing the line here on this side. There we go. So that will extend all the way over here to this corner and all the way up to about there. So that is all of the dirt and stone that we are removing, all to the level of that beacon. So it is going to look very different by the time we are finished, but again, it is for the better. Our zoo is really going to benefit from having all of this space. So I'm going to spend probably a few hours removing all of this dirt and stone, and I will meet all of you back here once it is finished, and we will get to work on planning the layout of our zoo. I will see all of you in a few hours. Welcome back, everyone. It took the better part of my day, but after a few long hours, I have finished, and this is how it looks. I decided to leave the trees up here just for fun, but all of the stone, all of the grass has been removed, and a handful of iron and copper and coal ore as well. We got quite a bit of gravel and dirt from all of those smaller inside pockets as well, but why don't we go ahead and fly up and take a look at how that has come together. So from that corner all the way over to this side and everything in front of it, that has all been leveled down to Y95. We have exposed a few surprises and some caves here and there. That will be our next step, to go back in and fill those in. And I decided to leave the trees up just for fun, but those are also going to be removed. And then it will be time to start figuring out where we want to put all of our paths and all of the enclosures for our zoo. Now, we are not going to remove this final layer of stone and replace it with grass. What we are instead going to do is form the path where we want the path to be, and then as we go in and make the enclosures, we will do each one individually and kind of address that as needed. A little numbers though on our mining operation here. We have now in our storage facility about 11 large chests completely full with stone, 11 large chests completely full with cobblestone, and about 4 large chests of dirt and 4 large chests of grass. We got a lot of resources from that, and if we hop into our statistics tab and go over to items and times mined, we can see that stone is now up to 108,568, and dirt and grass are sitting nicely at about 40,000 each. We have a lot of those resources, and we will definitely put them to good use in the future, but for now, our priority is the zoo. I have also gone ahead and compiled a list of all of our different mobs that I would like to have in our zoo. We may include some of the Minecraft mobs as well, like the specific ones. I do have Mushroom on here, that is the one exception. All of these are, of course, real animals in the real world, but we may also include certain mobs such as the Allay, or mobs like that aren't necessarily a real creature, but could be fun to include inside of our zoo. And then of course we also have on here, well, it's not listed, but tropical fish are going to be on here as well as part of our aquarium. We may even try to get some puffer fish in there if we can do so safely. But with all of that out of the way, I'm going to remove these trees, gather some resources, fill these holes, and we will get to work on mapping out and laying out the zoo. And we are back once again. All of the holes and the caves in the surrounding area have been filled in with grass, and I have gathered our materials that we are going to use for the path throughout the zoo. I initially thought about sticking to our usual suspects with our andesite and gravel tough stone mixture, but then I decided the zoo is a little bit more maintained, a little bit more polished and stuff like that, so we are going with some darker blocks, deep slate and basalt, a mix of that. Before we actually place down the path though, we are going to mark everything out in the place where we want it to be, and I think we are going to have the entrance to our zoo right here at the front of this hill. We're going to make it maybe 7 or 9 blocks wide. I think we will go for 9, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and we will have a sign over that welcoming us to the zoo. And then we will have our path. What I'm thinking for this is actually building. So orange will mark out our path, green will mark out our land animals, and then the light blue our aquatic animals. But what I'm thinking is we can build an aviary right here in the center of the zoo, and we will make it round. It will have a dome on it, and it will sort of be the centerpiece of our zoo. Surrounding the outside of our aviary, we are going to have just some nature, some grass planted, some flowers, bushes, shrubs, trees, things like that. And then slightly more outside of that, we're going to leave that buffer for the path. We will have an entrance to the aviary here in the front. But then from the outside, we are going to leave a little bit more space going around. So that will be the inner ring of this outer path. And then that path is going to be about 5 blocks wide. So that will leave us with this. I will go back and touch up these circles a little bit later with a actual circle generator. They are a bit boxy right now, but that gives us a general sense of how this is going to be. Again, that aviary here in the middle, that's going to be a glass dome structure. We're going to make that look really, really neat. And then that path going around, and around this path, and we are going to have some smaller fingers that extend out from it. That is where we are going to have our various animal enclosures, each one kind of designed specifically to the biome where the mob is from. So a desert for a camel, or icebergs for our polar bear friends. And then of course right here, this cliffside is not going to stay flat. We are instead going to make that a little bit more jagged and steep, as if it were an actual cliff. We're not really going to have any enclosures right here, but we might do some really cool cave exhibits. Maybe if we could somehow gather enough bats and get some name tags on them, we could have some bats in there as well. But so far I'm liking how this is all coming together. Obviously this path will extend. Did that get lined up properly? If not, it's no big deal. We can always go back and adjust, but I think that's lined up on that block, and that is lined up there. So we are properly lined up here. I think our shulker box is what was throwing me off. So again, our entrance to the zoo, right here, we will have a nice big arching sign over it, and then that path is going to narrow a little bit more as it continues up towards that central point. And we somehow did, oh, never mind, I just built this wrong. We are not misaligned. That just needs to slide over one more row. I'm currently debating whether we will build this into the stone or just raise everything up by one more layer. Truthfully, it really doesn't make a difference. We don't lose that much real estate by going up one more layer. So I think we will probably just fill in our path between all of this wool rather than removing the stone and trying to do it that way. So now we have our entrance. We're going to have a zoo welcome center and maybe some smaller fun exhibits in there, maybe some small fish tanks and things like that as well, just to get everybody excited about seeing all of the animals. And we could even have maps of the zoo. We could generate some maps in our hand and have a collection of those so that our guests are able to figure out where they want to go and what exhibits they want to see. So, as I said, we are going to have some fingers that kind of extend in this direction. For that, we're not really going to curve the path. Instead, what we're going to do is have these long diagonal sections, maybe actually about 5 blocks. I went 7 there, but I think we will go 5. And it looks like those will just barely work out for us. We're going to fill that in with grass momentarily. But this is just going to extend all the way down over here. And then I'm trying to figure out the best way that we could maybe loop this so that everybody who visits doesn't have to walk down and then walk back and just see the same thing that they already saw. And I'm thinking the best way to do that would be to have exhibits in between this path and then have another path that kind of extends up from the cliff. Or maybe we could get creative with our cliff and have those exhibits extend up onto this mountainside and then somehow have a way of getting back down. Of course, we could always loop it back around behind our riverside inn and have that go over there in that direction. That is another option, but we will get to that in a moment. Next is this area right here, which I think we will do another loop for and make just a large rounded path. For that one, I'm definitely going to need to get on the circle generator. I can't freehand a circle that big. So we are going to have that loop all the way around here, similar to how our aviary is. There's going to be a large round section here in the middle, and then we will divide that and have a bunch of enclosures in there as well. So I'm going to go get all of those circles put into place, fix these ones a little bit, and then we will get to work mapping out where each individual enclosure is going to be. There we go, all of our circles are now into place. I missed a little bit of wool right here. We're just going to remove that real quick. I was using that to line up our outer and inner circle, but now we can fly up above and get a much better view of the layout of our zoo. So again, this is the entrance right here, our aviary here in the middle, and that cliffside is going to come down. We are going to go through a cave right here, and we're going to make that look really cool. That might be where we put our bats. And then we are going to have enclosures probably along this side. I think we will loop that path going around just like that where my cursor is following. And then this large circle right here, we will have a bunch of smaller exhibits and enclosures in there as well. And then over here on the outside, not really sure what we are going to do with that. We're going to have to terraform that a little bit, but it might be a really neat place to put sort of a scenic overlook to the ocean. And we are finally building in view of our boathouse that we made probably close to 100 episodes ago. Our lone boathouse is finally seeing some action. So our next step now is to figure out where we want each enclosure to go. For that, we are going to again use a combination of green and blue wool, depending on whether the mobs are aquatic or land animals. We are going to start with all of our land animals since we have a overwhelming majority of them, and I think our first one could probably go right here, and I think we will maybe do some kind of slanted angle like that, a small enclosure right here for perhaps some armadillos, although I'm thinking that might be a little bit small and a little too gradual, so maybe something a bit more like that I think would suit us a little bit better. And we will put down a sign right here and label it armadillos. Of course, this is our aviary, we can also put that on a sign. And now for the fun part, we get to figure out what to do with this large space right here. What I'm thinking is we will do sort of a cross pattern and divide each of these sections into, I think, eighths. I think that would give us enough space for each enclosure, but I'm wondering if maybe we instead go for sixths. I think that might be a little bit better for us, because if we did divide this in half again, and then divide this in half right here, that would leave us, well, actually, that's not terrible all the way out here. That's a pretty decent sized enclosure. And then right here, we could just divide this going down this line, giving us two enclosures right here, because if we tried to divide this in half, this one would be way too small, but that one would be the right size. So we will just divide that going like this. That will give us an enclosure here, one here, and then over here we can divide this diagonally. We'll do the same thing here on this side. So we have 4 enclosures on that side, and then once again we will divide it going all the way down the middle, and one more time going up from this point right here. So let's fly above and look at the size of each of these enclosures. I think that is a pretty neat design and a really cool looking shape. So each of those will be an individual enclosure, all with their sort of own unique biome to it. Armadillos right there, they are a little bit smaller. We could maybe even do axolotls over here on this side, and then I think along this stretch right here will be our larger habitats, so the desert for the camels and the icebergs for the polar bears. They are going to need a lot more space than some of our smaller mobs. So I think we will just continue a line of our green wool, our lime wool, all the way along this side, and this will be the back side of all of these enclosures, and then we will have the cliff extending down, and that will sort of act as a natural barrier. By the time we get that in, it won't be necessary to have a fence on the backside because it will be so steep, the animals wouldn't be able to escape anyway. So we will continue that all the way to the end of this path, and then we will cut this section in half, roughly right about here, and that will extend going back sort of diagonally, but a more gradual shift. There we go. So that will be one enclosure, and then this one over here will be another, and we could do that same gradual diagonal until we get to that corner. So then that path will loop around, which means we will have a few more enclosures right in here. I think what we will do is have another diagonal extending out from this spot right here, and just bring that straight back until maybe about this point, and then we can turn that going back in this way, and then right about here we will go straight in towards the path, because we are going to have our visitor center, our welcome center right there, and maybe a gift shop as well. And then we will just continue this diagonal all the way across in this direction, and it should hopefully line up pretty close with that point right there, although I'm thinking it's going to go all the way over there. So what we might do instead is turn this just slightly like that, and it matches pretty much on that same spot. So another large enclosure right here, and our path then will extend back behind this and go all the way to this side. So now we need to figure out which animals are going to go where. So let's take a look in our book. The armadillos, we already have them mapped out. The axolotls, I was thinking we could also put them in a smaller enclosure over here by the front, but I think we are going to hold off on aquatic animals for now. The camels, we've already discussed, will be right over here. They are going to want some hills and a desert setting. I think if we put them right here, that would be a great place for them. So we will label that camels. Continuing down the list, our next large animal would be goats and llamas. The llamas and goats actually will both love the mountainous terrain, and we could do a lot with that cliffside. The only thing is I don't want our goats escaping, and they are able to jump about 10 blocks high. But if we made the cliff steep enough right here, I think it would suit them quite nicely. So I think... But at the same time, I kind of like this for the polar bears. It is a very large plot, probably our largest. And they are our largest animal that we are going to house in our zoo. The camels are pretty large, but polar bears are just big all around. I also forgot about our pandas. They will want more of a forest habitat, but I think we could make that work in one of these plots right over here. I'm just going to put a little marker next to all of the plots that we already have mapped out. Our parrots, of course, will be in the aviary. We will put bees in there as well since it will be enclosed. I think that would be a good spot for them. So that leaves pandas, wolves, llamas, goats, foxes, and maybe ocelots, but they are relatively small. But those are our largest animals that we have left. And again, those goats are going to need a fairly large buffer between them and the outside world. Let's go ahead and fill in some of these smaller animals, and then we will see what's left. So I think we will put foxes right here. I think we will do wolves opposite of the foxes, so maybe right here. I think we'll go ahead and put our axolotls in this plot. And then we can do our ocelots right over here. The frogs are another one that can jump relatively high, so I think we will put them right over here. We will be able to dig out a large spot for them so that they can't escape. Same thing with rabbits. We could do rabbits right here. And actually, I just got a really neat idea. What we could instead do, instead of terraforming this section right here, is we could have some aquatic animals in these plots, or semi-aquatic, and have our path go down on a hill and then back up and have a glass wall between the water and the path. That way we could see the aquatic animals. So we will put our turtles right here, and we will actually go ahead and move our axolotls to be in this plot. Which means over here in this plot, we can replace this sign with our mushrooms. Again, I know they're not an actual animal, but I figured we might as well put them in here just for some fun. So what all does that leave us with? It leaves us with dolphins, goats, llamas, and pandas. We need 4 more plots for each of those 4 animals. Now, the dolphins are going to be a part of the aquarium, I think, although it could be fun to have them right here, and then maybe by the welcome center, we could have a swimming with dolphins area. So I think we will actually go with that. We will put our dolphins, if I can spell, we will put them right there. So we have dolphins, we just need goats, llamas, and pandas. I think we will put our goats right over here. It's still along that cliffside, so I think it will work quite nicely. And then I think when we continue this path going back, that will give us space to put our llamas right here and our pandas over here in this future plot. So let's fly up and take a look at our planned out zoo. Again, we are going to have another plot dividing these two right here. That way, when you make the loop, you're not looking at the same animals when you walk back. But that is the layout of our zoo. And then our aquarium, I think we could put that right down here at the end. We will work on that. That will be its own separate project when we go to do that. But we are pretty much all filled in here for our zoo. And each of these plots is probably going to be its own video. I want to spend a lot of time on each one, making it extremely detailed and making it the perfect habitat for all of our animals. So it's going to be something that we work on over the course of about 10 to 20 videos. Not all at once. We are going to take our time with this, and it's going to be a really neat project once it's finished. In the next episode, though, we are stepping away from the zoo, returning to our armor trim project, and we will be discussing ways to cut down on our need for diamonds by trading with villagers and getting armor trims in other ways. For now, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss out on daily content as soon as I publish it. Check the description for some more important information, links, how to contact me, all of that good stuff. And with all of that being said, comment, like, subscribe, remember to stay optimistic, and I will see all of you tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Bye!